All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another monthly edition of Live Optimization via YouTube Live for Litmus. Glad to have everybody here. See a couple of you hopping on right now, which is awesome. I think today's going to be a relatively short live optimization. It's just me again, because if you were here for earlier this month when we did live coding, I had a couple of issues with the stream and my streaming software, so I don't think I'm still confident enough yet to bring other people into the live streaming world. But we'll get there. Maybe next month I'll work out the kinks and we'll be good to go. So it's just going to be me, and I today just have one email that we're going to be looking at for live optimization. I think it's a really good example of what a lot of people are sending. And has some interesting challenges. I want to take a little bit of time to dig more deeply into that email campaign and see if we can make it a little bit better. It's for another Jason, which is a great name to have. It's obviously my name. I'm Jason Rodriguez, if you don't know that. But yeah, we're going to take a little bit of time, dig into that email, live optimize it. But did want to remind everybody that we are doing live optimization every month, the last Friday of the month, which is why we're doing that right now. If you have your own email campaigns that you want to see on screen, get the feedback from me, from other email experts as we invite them onto live optimization, I would love to see them. I'm going to put a link in the chat here. The simple Google form, all it's asking for you is to fill out like your name, email address, a link to your email campaign, like the view and web link is perfect for that. Or if you have it up on GitHub or something like that, somewhere where I pull the code out and put it into Litmus Builder is ideal. And then ask you a couple of questions about the goal of your campaign, any of the challenges you had in producing that campaign, all that good kind of stuff, so that I can understand what your email's about, what you're trying to do in the future, the channel you have, so that we can optimize it live right here on YouTube. So as always, we're going to dig in here, but quick reminders, you should subscribe to the YouTube channel for Litmus. That's where you'll see all kinds of different videos that we're posting. We just did a great team spotlight on our own email marketing specialist, Karen Slater, that was released yesterday, actually, that you can see on the YouTube channel. Great way to get to know different folks through the Litmus environment and atmosphere. Learn some more about them, the work they do at Litmus, all that good stuff. But we're also things like, old webinars, conference talks, feature spotlights, all that kind of stuff, as well as the live streams. So again, the second Friday of every month, we're doing live coding or some sort of practical hands-on type session. And then last Friday of every month, which is today, we're doing live optimization where we're looking at email campaigns and trying to make them a little bit better. So with that, I'm going to dig into, again, we're just going to focus on one email today. Dig into this campaign and see if we can make things a little bit better. So let me swap to my display here. Hopefully everybody's seeing Litmus Builder, which, if you're not familiar, again is, or actually it's not on Builder yet, it's on the summary tab here. But this is Litmus, which is, our platform for helping email marketers create better email campaigns faster. Whole bunch of tools in there, from Builder, which is what we're going to focus on, all the way through to, QA tools like checklists and previews, collaboration tools like Proof that allow you to get feedback way quicker than you're typically used to on your email campaigns, and incorporate that feedback into your emails as fast as possible so you can get those emails out the door. Analytics for analyzing your campaigns and engagement and, different reading environments, all that kind of stuff. But this email campaign that we're going to focus on today is from Fujifilm Sonosite. Well, Fujifilm, most people have heard of Fujifilm. Big electronics, huge corporation, company. But this is for Sonosite, which is, as far as I know, is what I can tell is kind of their medical imaging company, their business unit that focuses on sonogram machines, ultrasound machines, stuff like that. So it's very kind of niche audience that this email is going to be going out, but it's a welcome campaign that hasn't been updated since 2018. So one of the big challenges that Jason, again, was kind enough to send this in, mention that it feels like it looks outdated at this point, a couple of years since it was last updated. But also, in addition to that, it feels like the email's too long, has too much copy for a welcome email, and definitely facing some code challenges. So we're going to, again, this part of the reason I want to focus on one campaign today is look into that code and see if we can make things a little bit more responsive on mobile. And because it's new to JSON, that, you know, the HTML, the CSS, media queries, all that kind of stuff to make this email campaign look good and work well across different devices. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look into the design, the copy, kind of the strategy behind this welcome email, and then dig in a little bit of the code and see if we can get this thing looking better for mobile devices. So I guess it's like a combination live optimization and live coding a little bit, since we are going to be digging in the code. So let's take a look at this campaign first and just kind of get an overall gut reaction to this Fujifilm Sonosite welcome email. So my assumption is that somebody will go to that Sonosite website. I'm not sure exactly where, but they will sign up to get some sort of email campaign from them. They'll get sent added to their email list, sent newsletters, product updates, I'm assuming. But it's going to be very specific audience because, again, this looks like it's the medical imaging wing of or arm of Fujifilm. So my assumption is that it's largely doctors, nurses, technicians, healthcare administrators that kind of set the budget and purchase the equipment that are going to be receiving this type of campaign. So right off the bat, I feel like that's a really interesting challenge because those types of subscribers are really there for like something very specific. Like they're interested in your equipment. They're interested in how it's better than competitors' equipment. They're interested in the price of that equipment. It's not like your typical consumer, like B2C type email list where you're probably going to be sending them, weekly or monthly newsletters, product updates, a bunch of social media type stuff. So it's very focused. It needs to be kind of laser focused on specific pieces of information. And so right off the bat, that kind of, it strikes me that I kind of agree with Jason, the other Jason here, that this welcome email does feel a little bit long, a little bit heavy on copy, because it should, by its very nature, be so focused on delivering some key pieces of information, which to me, if I was, say, an ultrasound technician, or more likely probably somebody that's in a purchasing position, like a hospital administrator or something like that, I'm going to sign up for this, and I think I would probably be paying attention to a couple things. I'd want to know when products are updated. So set some sort of expectation about when you are going to be sending emails around product updates. I would want to know what is available, what's the current product range, which we kind of get into here with the product information, but it's not super detailed. And then kind of the other two pieces of information that kind of stand out to me as being important are the price of those products, because that's going to play so much into my decision for purchasing. Everybody's budgets everywhere are, fairly limited these days, and it seems like they're getting more constricted, even though we're all trying to scale and grow and, let capitalism take its course. But the price of those products, and then why your product is better than your competitors, or like what are the value adds of this product so that I'm tempted to buy it, to purchase it for my, hospital, doctor's office, whatever that happens to be. So it feels kind of like this email takes more of its cues from a B2C email. You have this big thanks for subscribing with us. It feels kind of personal, which is awesome. It has, all these faces and this hero image about Fujifilm Sonosite changing lives. That stuff's great, but it has these kind of content sections that feel more B2C than B2B to me, because this feels like a B2B brand, since it's going to be larger healthcare companies and hospitals and stuff purchasing this, what I imagine is very expensive equipment. So I think it's kind of, maybe the design is doing a little bit of a disservice to this audience, because it doesn't seem like it's speaking their language necessarily. It does have this little bit of like, what makes Sonosite ultrasound different, which is good. It links out to this video, which again is a great tactic we've seen in B2C. Anytime you can use video and email by like linking out to those videos and engaging people that way is really cool. It has like this product information. It has this, why the value of visualization, these medical imaging machines are so useful for medical practitioners. Like, all that stuff's good. But it doesn't really like hit on the specifics that I would imagine this audience is trying to get from this email newsletter and from the company, which is, what products are currently available in the lineup, how often are those products updated, so I can set some sort of expectations around, future budgeting, or, can I expect the Vive MD or the Edge 2, can I expect those to last 3, 5, 10 years? What's that kind of life cycle look like? What is the and how can I talk your sales team and actually get a demo of these products or actually purchase them? So I think this email could be improved by kind of cutting out a lot of this stuff and making it more simplified by saying, thanks for subscribing. Here's what to expect from these emails. You will get a monthly email from Fujifilm Sonosite. Here's our current product lineup, and here's how to contact us to learn more about these products or talk to a sales associate, because that seems like what this audience is trying to do. The case studies and stuff are cool, but it seems like that all that should be secondary to what I think would be the most important aspects, which should be right up front and center. But kind of beyond that, I feel like design-wise, it does feel a little bit dated. I feel like the imagery feels a little bit dated. The colors, maybe. The overall design, how it's in this constrained box, this like container with a white background versus the slightly darker gray background. Even this like kind of footer stuff and this little nav bar on the bottom here with the social links. Everything does feel a little bit outdated, which I feel like is, a lot of that stuff is set by branding guidelines, but sometimes it's set by the tools that we use as well. And it feels like this email was kind of put together in like a WYSIWYG editor, like using a pre-built kind of standard stock template. So just by like customizing some of that stuff, you can make it feel a little bit more bespoke, a little bit more modern, which I feel like the Sonosite website actually does pretty well. It feels modern enough. It feels like a pretty good version of I haven't seen a lot of medical imaging websites, but it feels like they do it fairly well. They have cool imagery, cool GIFs. I could see like bringing this GIF into the email as a really cool design element. So kind of showing that product in use without actually showing it in use would be a really cool thing. But just doing a couple of things to make this feel more like the website could go a long way into modernizing it. So the things that kind of stand out to me is maybe make this background all white, which we could do that simply enough. We're inside a builder here. We could change that so it's all white. And I feel like already it feels a little bit more modern, a little bit more roomy. Like there's a little bit of room to breathe with the email. But then maybe doing things like bringing in some of the visual styles that are on the website, like these black headlines with this little bar underneath, could be a really cool visual element that would unify it with the overall branding and make it feel a little bit more modern. So I mentioned we're gonna play around a little bit and kind of go in depth with live optimizing and mess with the code a little bit. So we could do that. So let's maybe take one of this "Thank you for us" headline and see if we can modernize that a little bit and kind of match the rest of the branding on the Sonosite website here. So looks like they're using basic black. So we have this font tag, which might not be the best way to mark up some of this stuff. Some of the markup does feel a little bit outdated, which again could be the result of the template that they're using or just the coder's knowledge. But we'll stick with it for now and just say we want this font to be all black, which is 6 zeros there. If you go back up there, already I feel like that looks a little bit more modern. Colored text doesn't necessarily feel super modern, but kind of minimalistic black and white stuff does. It looks like everything on here, though, on the website is kind of left aligned. We do have this kind of center text here, so maybe we can keep it centered. But I do like adding in that little like horizontal rule underneath here. I think could make it feel a little bit more modern. That feels like a more modern typographic feature. So I'm trying to think about what the best way to do that might be. We could add in like a table cell with a background color that is, maybe let's try to do that. We could add in a TR with table cell that has, you know, a non-breaking space element in here. So there's not really like any content here, but it's kind of like faking that content for us. And then just add some styles here. So the background color could be, let's see what this other color is here. Go into the link. It looks like it's this color here. So I'm going to say that's the background color. So it looks like there's some kind of weird spacing stuff going on here. So we could very easily use one of the handiest of tools in email coding, which is the line break. Let's see if that adds enough space. There we go. But then I want to make this kind of like a constrained width and like size. So I could say let's say the width of this table cell is maybe 50%. Oops. And see what that looks like. If that does anything, it doesn't look like it's going to do anything for us. Oh, my code's just not good. That still doesn't look like it worked there. So maybe an easier way to do this would be to add in like a horizontal bar as an HTML character code. Change this to color. We could, you know, center that pretty easily, saying text line center. And then maybe bump up the font size and weight so that it's a little bit more bold. It's got like a bar, and then we could play around with the padding here, or like remove some of these breaks. So then we have that kind of element there, which Karen Slater, my compatriot at Litmus, said put in a nested table. I guess, yeah, if I want to use the cell, that's a great way to do it. Karen is a much better email coder than I am. But we're doing this kind of quick and dirty. You know, we can just add that kind of element in there. And it feels like a little bit more modern. It feels more in line with the overall website here in that style. So if I were Jason, I'd probably do something like that. Find out a good kind of sustainable technique inside of your table structure to add those types of elements, and then just kind of make that the case for each of these headings here. So again, we could change this to 000, 000. We could add in that little table cell with that horizontal bar, or you could use a nested table with that table cell set to constrained width, and use background color to add that in there. And I think that would go a long way to making this feel a little modern. The other thing that really helps with making designs feel more modern is just adding in more white space. So you can see these kind of content sections feel a little bit cramped. So just adding in white space between these different sections could help out a lot. So we have this like kind of horizontal rule here. Again, it looks like they're doing things kind of quick and dirty using line breaks here. So maybe adding a couple more of those. Let's see. Maybe that's a little bit too much, a little bit too aggressive with the white space. Before and after those horizontal rules. We'll just give those different content sections room to breathe. And that's, I feel like that's a lot of kind of modern design is white space, giving people the ability to scan through content more easily, keeping things just kind of minimalistic, makes things feel more on brand. So we could, again, kind of copy. I'm assuming these different content sections follow the same structure. So we can go in here and add those. We have this HR. Add those in around each horizontal rule here. And I feel like that's looking a little bit more modern than it was before, just by adding that breathing room. And you can adjust this. There's lots of different ways to add that kind of white space. I think my preferred method is to use padding on table cells, since you don't have like a lot of control over the sizing of these line breaks, unless you were to kind of control the line height and the font size of that container element they're displayed in. But if each of these content sections were marked up in a table cell, then you could apply padding to the top, right, bottom, and left of those table cells and really adjust this to taste. But that kind of digs into the overall structure of the code, which is, again, not the greatest thing in the world, but I don't think it's a far cry from what a lot of email designers and developers and marketers are used to, based on their knowledge of HTML and CSS, how things like responsive emails function, like the techniques, like mechanisms for making emails responsive. A lot of this kind of stuff can be generated by WYSIWYG editors, which my hunch is that this probably started in a WYSIWYG editor, just because there's a body tag, which isn't really necessary for anything in email. But it's one of those things that a lot of WYSIWYG editors will add in. It feels very much like a WYSIWYG type generated email. And because of that, if it's like an older template or was built by a tool that isn't like the greatest at responsive design, this email isn't responsive at all. So when we shrink it down to that smaller screen size, you can see that, especially the images, all that containers just force into that fixed width, which I think is 550 in this case. And it doesn't look good on devices. So ideally, this is a pretty simple layout. It's all this generally single column layout. Nothing too fancy going on here, but it should shrink down so that it's not kind of breaking that viewport and forcing horizontal scrolling, because that's less than ideal on mobile devices. People don't really like horizontal scrolling in emails on mobile devices. So let's see if we can kind of help Jason out here and see if we can get this working, just kind of like baseline responsive stuff working. So if we dig into the code here, you can see that, again, this might have been changed by the ESP or the tool that it was built in, but we don't see any kind of style block up in the head of the email that will allow for some responsive stuff to happen. So the first thing in kind of the traditional responsive coding technique is to have something that's called a media query, which is a rule inside of CSS and HTML that allows you to kind of do some logical switching of your styles based on different properties of where that design is being viewed. So we're going to say at media screen, because this is all shown on a screen. It's an email. You're probably not printing it out, but we're going to say max width is equal to, I think the width here was 550. So we'll say 550 pixels. And then we're going to open up these curly braces. And so this media query is kind of like the backbone of most responsive styles here, if you're using traditional responsive coding, not something like hybrid or kind of spongy coding. That's another way of doing this. But what we're saying here is that anytime this screen is 550 pixels or smaller, narrower, then we're going to apply some specific styles to our HTML and the design in the email. So if we look into the code here, we can see that each of these, this email is kind of marked up in a table that has its fixed width of 550 pixels. So that's what we're going to be targeting to adjust that. So it looks like there's one table. That's interesting. There's just this empty table here for the email header. I don't know if the ESP injects something there, it might. We have another table here that's set to 640 pixels wide. And that's the begin table for whole email, which is kind of interesting. So it looks like that's the actual container table. And then everything's just kind of happening inside of that table there. So we'll start by targeting that table right there, which is the 640 pixels wide. So we'll give it a class, which classes and IDs are usually how you target things. And we'll say we want this to be the class of mobile table. So then inside of your media query here, we're going to say .mobile table, which is targeting that element. And we're going to say the width is equal to 100%. Make that important so that it overrides any inline styles. And let's see if that gets us kind of moving more responsibly. Awesome. So just with that one kind of CSS rule and targeting that container table, we have what appears to be a pretty responsive email here. What's really cool is seeing that the images are responding to, which I think let's see how we marked these up. So if we go here, yeah, so Jason was using this width attribute on the images, saying that this image is 100% wide, and that's where we get that kind of scaling, that nice mobile scaling stuff, which is awesome. So just with like those couple of tricks, I feel like we've gone a long way to kind of modernizing this email and making it feel better on mobile. There's lots of things you could do from a responsive aspect to make this work a little bit better. You can see that this pre-header stuff up here with the view and browser link isn't working that well. So we can just grab that class from our container table and add it to, any of these. I guess you don't want to double up on class attributes here, but just add it to those different sections there, and then we have that working as well. One area that feels a little bit weird is this footer down here. You can see that there's these two kind of sections, these two columns. So I'm curious how this is marked up too here. So we have this row for a blue bar, table cell, and then, so it looks like these are just using floats, which doesn't necessarily work everywhere on these images. So each image is, a specific size, and it's just floating that left, so that all of these are floating left, and then this longer bit just gets pushed down its own little element here, its own line. So I think a more durable way to do this would be to nest a table in here inside of this table. So you have your table row, then you have your table cell, and then you'll nest another table in here that'll have a 2-column layout. So another table row, this will be a table cell with these images below within that table cell, and then this will be a secondary table cell with the URL here. And then use a similar technique for stacking those things. You target that those table cells, even though they're maybe 50% wide or whatever that's set to. In line up here, you could say, target that table cell. So mobile cell might be the class name, and then the width equals 100% important, so it overrides that. So some pretty basic stuff, but again, this is one of those areas where I would argue that, especially for an audience like this, these social links make like no sense whatsoever. I can't imagine that a hospital administrator is looking to purchase, a new, 6 new ultrasound machines to kit out their new suite that they're building out, and they're going to go to Sonosite and be like, I'm really curious what Fujifilm is doing on social right now. Like, what's their Instagram story look like? It just seems like noise, like unnecessary noise. I can't imagine anybody signing up for this email is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to check out Fujifilm, follow them on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm really curious what they're doing across social there. So it seems we could just remove this wholesale, which again would kind of clean up this design, and make it feel a little bit more minimalistic, a little bit more modern. That would be awesome. But one thing I noticed too when we're looking at this footer is there's this green bar here, want to speak with an ultrasound expert, contact us. That seems like one of the most important pieces of information, and it's just relegated to the bottom as kind of an afterthought, like this mobile bar and the URL down here. So that's one of those pieces of content that seems like it should be front and center in this welcome email. So you want to say thanks for subscribing with us. Here's some information. We're going to set some expectations about what kind of emails you're going to receive after signing up for this list. Here's our product lineup. Contact us. Reach out to us if you want to talk about any of our products, if you want to talk to an ultrasound expert and find out how you can get our machines into your buildings. This is how you do it, and have that, front and center. I like the idea of keeping it in this maybe like green background, or making it look like that banner, and maybe even adding in some information like, contact us probably sends you to a contact page on their website. If there's a direct like sales phone number, something like that, like maybe add that in here, because they might not have, the time to go through this long, lengthy kind of prospecting lead generation form on a website, but they just want to write down your phone number so that they can call you when they do have a couple of free minutes. So just move that up so it's kind of front and center, because that's really what the ultimate goal of any of these newsletters are, especially for this kind of B2B audience, is getting them to talk to you about how they can buy your products. So it doesn't really make sense to me that it's kind of hidden in the footer here. I would bring that way up in the email, make that kind of the feature. Thank them for subscribing, set some expectations, and tell them exactly how they can talk to you, because that's most likely what they want to do. I'd love to hear if anybody does have any feedback beyond what I've kind of chatted through. If you do, leave it in the live chat there. I am checking that out. But I think this is a great example of an email that a lot of people are probably sending. It just hasn't really been optimized in the best way. And, just by adding some of these tweaks, making things responsive, which is generally easy enough across most email clients, making things feel a little bit more modern and on brand with the rest of your content, your website, and all that kind of stuff. And just focusing on like what that audience is really looking for, beyond just making the assumptions of like what they might want to see, it would be a really great way to improve these types of campaigns that a lot of people are sending. Karen just commented in here, add a tap to call feature on the contact for mobile only. I think that's an awesome idea too. I mentioned earlier that Karen did a team spotlight on the YouTube channel for Litmus, which you should definitely check out, or you can see it at Litmus blog, litmus.com/blog. One of her favorite things she likes to do, one of her favorite challenges in coding email, is hiding and showing things depending on where that email is seen. So on mobile, you might see some of those buttons that lead you to an app store, allow you to call from your phone, but that doesn't really make sense on desktop clients, so it's kind of hidden. But I think that's a great way to do that. Like if you're bringing this contact us section up here, up to the top here, you could have like that link, maybe make that a nice like bulletproof button that looks a little bit better than just the text link, more inviting to tap. Have that on here so that it can take them to that page, but then if they are a mobile, show a tap to call, like, call us right now button that is only displayed on mobile, so that they're right there, they have their phone in hand, they're ready to go. You're top of mind because they just signed up for your email list on your website. They just opened up your welcome email. Maybe they want to talk to somebody. Give them that option on mobile and make it really easy. So for that link, you would use, the telephone attribute to say that this is a telephone number and allow that option to call. I think that's a great idea, Karen. So thank you, and thank you for hopping on the live stream today. But yeah, I feel like with just a couple of kind of relatively straightforward tweaks, most email marketers could send more modernized, more responsive emails that have their subscribers more at top of mind and a little bit more thoughtful when it comes to the content of their emails, make them a little bit more valuable for folks with some pretty straightforward, easy tweaks. So that's not really getting into, again, what this looks like across all these different email clients. I'm sure it's not optimized for like dark mode. I might be doing some funky stuff on Outlook. So there's definitely resources out there that help you to code better email campaigns that work across all those email devices, all those email clients. Obviously, Litmus is a great tool for seeing how your emails look in all those different email clients. But I'll kind of leave it to everybody here to dig into the code, what templates you're using, what responsive techniques you're using, all of that good stuff to make your emails better for everybody. So that's the one email I wanted to go through today. I thought it was a good example that is indicative of what a lot of people are sending, but can be updated and made better with a couple of pretty straightforward tweaks. So I'm going to switch back over here so you can see my face. I don't know if anybody wants to, but it's here. But thanks everybody for joining today's quicker live optimization session. Again, I would love to see your emails, and we're going to be doing this every Friday each month on the Litmus YouTube channel. Obviously, subscribe. There should be a big red button that says subscribe now on the page that you're on, or just go to youtube.com/c/litmus1 to subscribe directly on our kind of YouTube channel page. But there's, again, that link in the live chat, which you should see. Link to a really quick to fill out Google form. That's the best way to send in your emails for live optimization. Again, we'll do this next month. I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to get like the streaming stuff figured out so that I can have other people join me on the call and talk through their opinions, so it's not just mine every time. But I appreciate everybody joining. If you haven't already, go eat some lunch, because that's what I'm about to do. And I will see everybody next time for live optimization on the Litmus YouTube.